Imagine this. You open your eyes in a quiet room where the air tastes faintly of coal smoke, where the mattress beneath you feels firmer, lumpier, and somehow older than anything your modern body remembers. There is no hum of electricity, no glow of screens, no soft comfort of synthetic fabrics. Instead, a pale London morning presses weakly through velvet curtains, and the distant clatter of iron-rimmed wheels echoes along cobblestone streets. For a moment, you're suspended between two worlds, the familiar present and a past built on rituals, expectations, and the art of never stepping out of line. This is Victorian England, a place where a single misjudged gesture could unravel your reputation, where conversation is as delicately structured as architecture, and where even the air you breathe is filtered through layers of polite restraint. A place where entire lives are choreographed down to the angle of a curtsy, the cut of a glove, the precise number of minutes a social call may last. And you, without warning, have awakened right in the middle of it. Tonight, we will step into this world with care. Not through textbooks or dry lectures, but by inhabiting it, walking its chilly streets, navigating its unspoken codes, and uncovering the quiet tensions beneath its polished surface. You'll see how a single day in Victorian society unfolds, how people dress, speak, flirt, eat, perform, conceal, endure, and hope. And perhaps, in the rhythm of these routines, you'll discover something that resonates with your own life. Because the Victorians, for all their rules, were still human, anxious, curious, longing, observant. In our journey, we will unravel why this world fascinates modern audiences so much. We will explore the invisible rule book that shaped every hour of a Victorian day. And we will follow one young woman through the rituals, restrictions, and small rebellions that defined her place in society. Prepare yourself for a slow descent into another time, a time where silence speaks, gesture governs, and propriety is the law of survival. Welcome to Victorian London. Now, let us begin. Part 1. The morning world, waking into a society of rules. You awaken in a narrow iron bed, the kind that creaks with the slightest shift of your weight. The horsehair mattress presses unevenly beneath you, dense in some places, oddly soft in others. Cold air nips at your cheeks. This room does not embrace warmth the way modern bedrooms do. Here, heat is earned through labor, through coals carried up from the kitchen and tended carefully through the night. What remains now is only a faint glow in the grate, embers more than flame, casting slow, pulsing shadows against the bulky wardrobe and the simple washstand. Then, the smell reaches you. Coal smoke, sharp, unmistakable, and omnipresent. London breathes it, exhales it, wears it like an unavoidable perfume. Even inside your room, it seeps through tiny cracks around the window frame. The faint bergamot scent from a small glass bottle on your dressing table tries, valiantly but unsuccessfully, to mask it. This is Victorian life. Fragrant oils fighting a losing battle against the industrial world creeping in through every seam. Beside you sits a small bell. You ring it. Almost instantly, you hear quiet yet purposeful footsteps ascending the stairs. Your maid enters, Mary, already dressed, hair neat, apron crisp. Even at this early hour, she greets you with a curtsy and a soft, "Good morning, miss." Her voice carries the practiced calm of someone who has spent her life rising before dawn. Without waiting for your response, she pulls open the velvet curtains. Weak winter light filters in, struggling through layers of soot clinging stubbornly to the glass. The city outside is already awake. Horses snorting, wheels rattling, vendors calling out faintly in the distance. Mary turns to your wardrobe. And here begins your first true lesson in Victorian life. In this world, clothing is destiny. What you wear determines not only how others perceive you, but also how you must behave. It is a script written in fabric, corsetry, and silhouette. She lays out the first garment, a simple cotton chemise, cool to the touch. Over it comes the corset. It is not merely supportive, it is transformative. When Mary laces it, the pressure builds slowly, then sharply. Your ribs shift, your breath shallows. In Victorian society, beauty is not about comfort, it is about discipline. The ideal waist is one that fits inside a man's hands. Then the petticoats, 1, 2, 3, each adding weight and volume. And after them, the crinoline, a skeletal cage of steel hoops expanding your skirt into an elegant bell. Standing inside it feels like inhabiting your own private architecture. By the time the dress is fastened, the gloves fitted, and your hair pulled tightly back, you no longer feel like the person who woke in that cold bed. You feel constructed, shaped into the form society requires. This, too, is Victorian life. Breakfast awaits downstairs, but in this house, even family meals are governed by distance. Your father reads the newspaper without looking up. Your mother writes correspondence with impeccable posture. Affection is something displayed in private, and even then, sparingly. A nod replaces a hug. A polite greeting replaces warmth. Before the day has properly begun, the rules have already wrapped themselves around you, layer by layer. And as Mary reminds you, you have an important engagement later, a morning call, scheduled, ironically, for the afternoon. But for now, the morning stretches ahead like a calm before the storm. The rituals of the early day have shaped you into the perfect Victorian young lady. And soon, you must step out into the world where every movement, every phrase, and every breath may be judged. The day is only beginning. Part 2. The Art of Appearance. Clothing, composure, and the silent language of status. Once breakfast concludes, quietly, neatly, without the careless chatter of modern mornings, you retreat to the drawing room. The fire here has been tended more carefully, and the faint warmth softens the stiffness in your posture, but not enough to forget the corset hugging your ribs like an uncompromising embrace. Victorian mornings are not idle. Idleness, to Victorian eyes, is a moral failing, a sign of loose character. A proper lady must always appear occupied, even when accomplishing very little. Needlework becomes both decoration and disguise, a bouquet of stitched flowers concealing a life of limited choices. Your mother joins you, her own embroidery already in hand. The exchange is subtle, a comment on a neighbor, a brief observation about the weather, the faintest flicker of satisfaction at the neatness of your French knots. You sit together in companionable silence, but beneath that quiet lies an unspoken curriculum. She's teaching you how to be seen without seeming to look, how to listen without revealing thought, how to convey composure without betraying emotion. Victorian womanhood is performance. Every gesture is part of an unbroken etiquette sequence. How you fold your hands, how you lower your gaze, how long your smile lingers, how softly your slippers touch the floorboards. These subtleties matter more than words. Late in the morning, though hours remain before your morning call, you practice piano. Not with passion, not with visible enjoyment, but with refinement. In this era, a lady's musical skill must be polished enough to entertain guests, yet restrained enough not to appear professional. Professionalism, in music as in many things, is for those who must earn wages, a category from which you must remain separate. Even the pieces you choose are a kind of coded message. Mozart is respectable, balanced, and emotionally moderate. Anything too dramatic, too expressive, would risk accusations of impropriety. Then comes a knock. Your mother rises, her expression shifting subtly into the careful neutrality she uses for social interactions. It is Mary, with a gentle reminder. You have your morning call with Mrs. Hartley at 11, miss. Not truly 11, of course. The term morning call is a linguistic relic that no longer aligns with the clock. But Victorian society, so obsessed with order, is equally obsessed with preserving its traditions, no matter how illogical. You rise from the piano bench carefully, mindful of the crinoline that threatens to tip with too sudden a movement. Each adjustment of skirt, of gloves, of bonnet reaffirms the day's central lesson. In Victorian London, you do not simply present yourself. You curate yourself. Your clothing speaks before you do. Your posture communicates your values. Your silence conveys your propriety. As you prepare to step outside, your mother offers her final instruction of the morning. A simple, pointed sentence that encapsulates Victorian etiquette. Remember, Jane, a lady's presence should be noticed, but her voice should never dominate a room. And with that, you step out into a society where appearance is not vanity, but survival. Part 3. The morning call, a 15-minute performance of politeness. Stepping out into the chilled London air, you quickly remember that the world beyond your doorway is no gentler than the world within it. The city feels alive in a restless, gritty way, fog mingling with soot, the rhythm of carriage wheels echoing through narrow streets, a city expanding faster than its traditions can keep up. Yet here you are, walking through it with small, measured steps, your skirt swaying like a moving bell of silk and steel. Your mother walks beside you, her own pace controlled, elegant, and absolute in its correctness. To an outsider, your procession looks serene. Inside the cage of your corset, your breath stays carefully regulated. Excitement, impatience, even discomfort. None of it must reach your expression. The etiquette of walking alone could fill a handbook. A lady does not walk too quickly. She does not make eye contact with strange men. She keeps her hands hidden in gloves. Her posture is straight, her chin low, her gaze restrained. Victorian London is a performance, and you are one of its quiet actors. As you turn onto the Hartley Street, you pass other ladies undertaking similar duties, each with the same controlled gait, each representing her household by the angle of her bonnet and the tidiness of her gloves. Men tip their hats as you pass. You acknowledge with the smallest tilt of your head. Nothing more. Anything fuller risks impropriety. At precisely 11, the Hartley residence looms before you. You approach neither too eagerly nor too reluctantly. To arrive early signals desperation. To arrive late hints at disorganization or disrespect. Punctuality here is not courtesy, it is currency. The butler, immaculate in his dark coat, opens the door before you have the chance to lift the knocker. He holds a silver tray. Without a word, you and your mother place your visiting cards upon it. Small, printed witnesses of your presence. These cards serve as both introduction and record, the Victorian equivalent of saying, "You matter enough to be acknowledged." You are ushered into the drawing room. The Hartleys rise as you enter. There are curtsies, never embraces, never kisses. Physical contact is reserved for private family life, not social ritual. You sit carefully, mindful of your skirt's enormous circumference, ensuring it sweeps outward gracefully rather than collapsing awkwardly. And now the true dance begins. For exactly 15 minutes, and not 1 minute longer, you converse, not deeply, not emotionally, not personally. Victorian small talk is not meaningless, it is strategic. Each topic is a safe harbor in a world where curiosity is considered vulgar and emotion resembles weakness. The weather is discussed first. Polite, neutral, inoffensive. Then the recent church sermon, uplifting but not overly sentimental. After that, perhaps the string quartet at last week's performance. Skilled but not ostentatious. Every opinion must be moderate. Every compliment understated. every smile measured. The key principle of Victorian conversation is simple yet suffocating. Never reveal too much of yourself. And when Charlotte Hartley's recent engagement is mentioned, you offer congratulations with the precise level of warmth expected. Not too cool, not too enthusiastic. Asking for details would be improper. Showing too much delight would border on girlishness. Your response must be a perfectly balanced reflection of polite interest. At minute 14, your mother gives you the signal, a barely perceptible nod. Conversation must wind down now. Rising too late suggests dependence, rising too early, disinterest. You stand, curtsy again, offer polite thanks, and step back toward the hall. You have performed the ritual flawlessly. As you leave the Hartleys' home and return to the cold London street, your mother's soft remark serves as both praise and instruction. Well done. You are composed, pleasant, and properly restrained. In Victorian London, that is the highest compliment a young woman can receive. And as you walk home, your skirt whispering against layers of petticoats, you cannot help thinking that the morning call, this small, rigidly structured social event, is a microcosm of your entire life. 15 minutes of perfection. 15 minutes without misstep. 15 minutes to prove your worth in a society that watches everything and forgives little. Your day is far from over, and the next ritual is already waiting. Part 4, Afternoon Hours. Needlework, restraint, and the quiet drama of daily life. Back home, the house feels warmer, calmer, but no less structured. Afternoon light slips through the sooty windows in long gray beams, illuminating dust motes that swirl like tiny restless spirits in the air. A fire has been rekindled in the drawing room. The faint crackle of its flames offers a rare softness in an otherwise tightly regulated day. Your mother has taken her usual seat near the window. You join her, once again lifting your embroidery hoop onto your lap. The rhythm of stitching, thread through linen, pull, adjust, repeat, becomes a steady metronome in the long Victorian afternoon. It is here, in this quiet domestic cocoon, that the strangest contradiction of Victorian life reveals itself. You must always appear occupied, but never appear rushed. You must always appear accomplished, but never overly ambitious. You must always appear serene, but never reveal that serenity takes effort. Your mother breaks the silence with a seemingly casual remark. I saw Mrs. Fairchild yesterday. Her son has returned from Oxford. For a Victorian young lady, this single sentence holds an entire constellation of implications. Thomas Fairchild. His name flickers in your thoughts like a candle flame. Steady, warm, undeniably present. You keep your gaze fixed on your embroidery, stitching calmly even as your pulse quickens ever so slightly. How nice, you say, keeping your voice neutral. Very civil of him to ask after you, your mother adds, observing your reaction out of the corner of her eye. You offer only the faintest smile. This is the Victorian game of courtship. Show interest, but not eagerness. Show warmth, but not passion. Show attention, but not pursuit. To demonstrate too much enthusiasm is to risk impropriety. To show too little is to risk losing the opportunity entirely. Courtship in this era is less like romance and more like an exquisitely choreographed dance, one in which partners rarely touch, yet remain acutely aware of each other's every movement. As the afternoon stretches toward evening, you set aside your embroidery and reach for an improving book, literature considered safely educational, morally upright, and suitably dull. Romantic novels, with their dangerous capacity to stir emotion, are frowned upon for women of your age and station. The reading is slow, heavy, dutiful. Yet this too is a performance. A proper young lady demonstrates intellectual cultivation without appearing overly intellectual. Knowledge is valuable. Yes, but only in forms that complement charm, modesty, and domestic skill. Hours pass in quiet companionship with your mother, two women sitting side by side, each performing the roles society has cast for them. When 4 o'clock arrives, another ritual begins. Tea with your cousin Emily. She arrives punctually, cheeks tinged pink from the cold. A table has been prepared. Small sandwiches, warm tea in delicate porcelain cups, tiny silver spoons that clink with the gentlest sound. Tea, as always, is another stage for the same restrained choreography. Polite conversation, careful posture, subtle expressions, and endless attention to propriety. You and Emily discuss safe topics, recent charity events, the new piano teacher in town, the weather shifting toward winter. Nothing passionate, nothing private, nothing sharp-edged. She leaves after the expected duration, not too short, not too long, and you have only a brief window of solitude before evening preparations begin. This is what makes Victorian life both exhausting and oddly comforting. Everything has a place, everything has a rule, everything has a time. There are no surprises, and yet there are so many things left unsaid. As dusk approaches and the lamps are lit throughout the house, you find yourself wondering what the next day might bring. Whether you will see Thomas, whether he will speak more directly, whether you might soon walk not only toward him, but with him. But that is for tomorrow. Tonight, another ritual demands your attention. Part 5. The dinner table, a stage of hierarchy, restraint, and unseen expectations. As evening settles over London, its familiar fog rolling in like a soft grey tide, the rhythms of the household begin to shift. Servants light lamps throughout the house, casting warm halos against wallpaper patterned with faint Victorian florals. The day dress you've worn since morning no longer suits the hour. Victorian propriety requires transformation, not just of clothing but of demeanour. Mary helps you change into your dinner dress, not as elaborate as evening wear, yet still elegant. Richer fabrics, smoother lines, slightly softer silhouette. Even in your own home, the rules demand it. Downstairs, the dining room awaits with all the stiffness and ritual one expects from a respectable Victorian household. Your father sits at the head of the table, posture straight, waistcoat buttoned, expression unreadable. Your mother occupies the opposite end, representing the silent backbone of domestic order. James, your elder brother, settles into his seat with the relaxed energy reserved only for men in this society, those who are free to roam, to debate, to join clubs, to travel unchaperoned, to occupy the public sphere without fear of scrutiny. You take your place quietly, maintaining the posture drilled into you since childhood. Back straight, hands poised, movements economical, voice measured. The meal begins with little ceremony. Victorians consider overt enthusiasm for food a vulgar display, and yet dinner is substantial. Roast beef, potatoes, vegetables, bread, hearty gravies. Your corset forces you into tiny, delicate bites. You pick at your food with the grace expected of a young lady, even as your brother speaks animatedly about his day at the club. His stories are full of names you recognize. Sons of bankers, officers, barristers, and titled families, each with ambitions and freedoms far wider than the world allotted to you. Your father listens, occasionally interjecting with a question or a firm opinion. He and James discuss business matters, topics women are not meant to fully engage with. Your mother, ever composed, adds a soft comment about her latest charitable endeavor, gracefully redirecting the conversation toward suitable topics. You contribute only when addressed, offering observations that are gentle, agreeable, and aligned with the expectations of your role. A Victorian dinner table is a place where even silence speaks volumes. Then, James glances at you with a mischievous spark. "I ran into Thomas Fairchild at the club today," he says casually. Your fork pauses mid-air for the briefest moment, too brief for anyone to notice except your mother, who misses nothing. "Oh," your father says, brow lifting in mild interest. "Yes, we spoke a bit. He mentioned he called at the house recently." You keep your gaze on your plate, heart quickening behind your calm exterior. "He asked after Jane," James continues. "Quite a few questions, actually. About her interests, whether she enjoys riding, what books she's been reading." Your mother clears her throat softly. "James?" she chides in a gentle tone. "Such matters need not be announced so boldly." But her eyes shine with quiet satisfaction. Your father's expression shifts into one of thoughtful approval. You merely take another small bite of vegetables. Inside, though, inside the truth glows like the ember in a hearth. Thomas is thinking of you. Victorian etiquette demands you show nothing, not excitement, not hope, not anticipation. So you sit perfectly still, performing the delicate neutrality expected of a lady. But the warmth of possibility settles in your chest like a promise. After dinner, custom dictates separation. The men adjourn to the study for port and cigars. Thick air, deeper voices, conversations barred to you. You retreat with your mother to the drawing room, where needlework resumes under the soft light of the oil lamps. Here, the silence is gentler, more personal. Thomas Fairchild seems attentive, your mother remarks as she threads her needle. You keep your expression composed. "Does he?" you reply softly. "He does," she says, giving you a small, knowing smile. "We shall see what tomorrow brings." And so the evening unwinds in quiet patterns, each stitch on your embroidery echoing the slow, careful stitching together of a potential future. One shaped by propriety, one governed by ritual, but perhaps, just perhaps, one warmed by something genuine beneath the layers. When you finally rise to retire for the night, you step away from the drawing room with the weight of possibility balanced inside you, light as a whisper, delicate as lace, but unmistakably there. Tomorrow holds its own rituals and its own turning points. Part 6. Evening transformed, preparations, expectations, and a world built on first impressions. Night wraps itself around London like a heavy velvet cloak, muting the noise of the city and softening the glow of gas lamps into faint halos. But inside your home, activity awakens once again. Evening in Victorian society is not a time of rest. It is a time of display. Tonight, your family will attend a formal dinner at the Fairchild's home. And though your heart quietly hums at the thought of seeing Thomas again, your face must remain calm, your posture perfect, your pace unhurried. Your transformation for the evening begins in your room. Mary sets out a fresh set of garments, the finest your wardrobe contains. Formal evening dress has its own intricate rules, and every rule must be obeyed. Tonight's gown is pale blue silk, with delicate lace tracing the neckline and sleeves. The bodice fits snugly, sculpted into elegance by a corset laced tighter than any you've worn that day. Mary stands behind you, pulling steadily at the stays. Each tug compresses your ribcage a little more. Each breath becomes narrower, each movement smaller. "You look beautiful, miss," she says softly as she steps back. Victorian beauty is not softness. It is control, discipline, composure under pressure. Your hair is pinned up into an elaborate twist adorned with small silk flowers. A light dusting of rice powder gives your face a matte, porcelain look. No rouge. Respectable women avoid anything that hints at theatricality. The only shimmer allowable is the slight reflection of lamplight on silk. When you descend the staircase, your parents pause for a brief inspection. Your mother's nod reveals satisfaction. Your father's approval is quieter but unmistakable. You have become exactly what you need to be tonight, a young woman whose appearance speaks of refinement, modesty, and promise. Outside, the carriage awaits. You step into it with practiced grace, mindful of your skirt's width. The interior smells faintly of polished wood and winter air. The wheels begin to turn, carrying your family through London's dimly lit streets. As the carriage approaches the Fairchild's residence, a large townhouse with discreet opulence, you note the brightness spilling from its windows. Gas lamps burn steadily inside, illuminating silhouettes of arriving guests. A liveried footman opens the door and assists you down, his gloved hand firm and steady. Inside, the atmosphere hums with polite anticipation. The drawing room is full of color, fabric, and restrained energy. The buzz of quiet greetings fills the air. The butler announces your family, and then you see him, Thomas Fairchild, standing beside his mother, tall and composed in evening attire, a dark coat, polished boots, a perfectly tied cravat. He turns as you enter, and something in his eyes shifts, brightens, though his expression remains within the strict boundaries of propriety. "Miss Wilson," he says, bowing, "how pleasant it is to see you again." "Mr. Fairchild," you reply, "I trust you are well this evening." The exchange is simple, almost mechanical, but beneath it there is something else, a flicker of mutual awareness. The room fills quickly with other guests, ladies in silk gowns, gentlemen in structured coats. Conversations unfold in a soft, measured hum. The orchestra of etiquette begins to play, each participant keeping time with invisible rules. Standing before the hosts, you note the quiet glances exchanged among mothers, sisters, and chaperones. Women who have mastered the art of reading silent cues, recognizing alliances, interpreting the subtext beneath every nod and smile. But even in a room full of watchers, Thomas finds ways to remain near you without violating propriety. A shared comment about the weather, a brief discussion of a recent musical performance, a compliment spoken softly enough not to draw interest from surrounding ears, but clearly enough that you feel its warmth settle beneath your ribs. Before long, the butler's voice rises over the soft chatter. Dinner is served. This is the moment when the evening truly begins. The guests form a queue, carefully arranged by social rank. Thomas offers his arm to an elderly, high-ranking lady, as proper etiquette dictates. You find yourself paired with a middle-aged gentleman you have never met. And yet, the choreography is precise. You glide into the dining room with the grace ingrained into every Victorian woman from childhood. The dining room dazzles. Crystal glints, silver shines. Candlelight flickers across gleaming china. Every place setting is an intimidating array of forks, knives, and spoons, each with its specific purpose and timing. As you take your seat halfway down the table, not at the bottom, but not near the top, you feel Thomas's gaze briefly flick toward you before turning away. Even a glance, in a dinner setting, holds meaning. The meal unfolds in orchestrated stages. Soup, fish, meat, game, dessert. Every motion, lifting your spoon, slicing your meat, sipping your water, is a test of quiet elegance. Eating too heartily is unbecoming. Leaving too little on your plate suggests greed. Leaving too much suggests disdain. Conversation, too, is guided by strict boundaries. Politics, forbidden. Money, inappropriate. Religion, avoided. Romance, absolutely unthinkable. You speak with the gentleman to your left and right. Pleasant topics only, nothing too opinionated. Across the table, Thomas listens to another guest, but now and then, when he believes no one is watching, his eyes wander toward you. It is a tiny rebellion against a society obsessed with restraint. And yet, in a room full of rules, even a glance feels like a declaration. When dessert is cleared, the hostess rises, and all ladies follow. You withdraw to the drawing room, another ritual, another separation. As you settle among the other women, conversation begins anew. Polite, gentle, carefully curated. Moments later, Mrs. Fairchild approaches with an expectant smile. "Miss Wilson, would you honor us with a piece at the piano?" You cannot refuse. You must not seem eager. You must not falter. "If you wish it, Mrs. Fairchild," you say softly. And when you take your seat at the pianoforte, hands arranged gracefully above the keys, you know every eye in the room is watching, judging, assessing. But you also know this: Thomas is somewhere just beyond the doorway, listening, waiting. And as your fingers glide into the first notes of Mozart, you realize you are not just performing music. You are performing yourself. And tonight's performance will echo far beyond this drawing room. Part 7. A dance of glances, flirtation, formalities, and the beginning of something undeniable. Your fingers finish the final delicate phrase of Mozart's sonata, letting the last note dissolve into the warm air of the drawing room. Applause rises, restrained, polite, exactly as Victorian etiquette dictates. But beneath the surface, formality lies something else: approval, admiration, and in some corners of the room, calculation. You lower your hands from the keys and inhale quietly, keeping your back straight, your expression calm. A performance is never simply a performance in Victorian society. It is a statement. A woman's accomplishments are a reflection of her upbringing, her femininity, her suitability as a wife. Tonight, you have proven yourself. As you stand from the pianoforte, arranging your skirt with controlled grace, Thomas steps forward. He doesn't reach for you. That would be improper, but his presence is unmistakably intentional. "I enjoyed your performance, Miss Wilson," he says, his voice low enough that only you can hear. "Such feeling." He pauses, aware of watching eyes. "Such appropriate restraint." A faint smile touches your lips. "Thank you, Mr. Fairchild. I'm glad it pleased the company." It pleased him. That you can see plainly. But the moment cannot linger. The drawing room is full of relatives, acquaintances, and careful observers. Every gesture must remain within boundaries, at least for now. Soon the men rejoin the ladies, carrying with them the faint scent of cigars and port. The room shifts once more into a sea of polite mingling. Some guests settle into card games. Others gravitate toward clusters of conversation. It is during this mingling that you notice Thomas's father speaking earnestly with your own. Two men of good reputation discussing business, society, and perhaps something deeper. Two families eyeing the possibility of a future alliance. Victorian dinners are never just dinners. They are opportunities, negotiations, auditions for respectability. And you, without saying a word, are already part of the unspoken conversation. Thomas eventually makes his way to you again, but he approaches indirectly, stopping to greet several other guests, ensuring no one can accuse him of favoring you too openly. When he reaches your side, he bows with impeccable form. "Miss Wilson," he says, "I hope the remainder of the evening finds you in good spirits." "It does," you reply, your voice soft but steady. He glances toward your mother, offering her a respectful nod before continuing. "Your thoughts on the Mozart piece," he says. "Your interpretation was thoughtful." Every word he chooses is careful. Compliments must be mild, never suggestive, never too warm. Yet his eyes say everything he cannot. You speak about music, art, literature. Topics considered safe and respectable, yet each exchange is more than conversation. It is connection disguised as propriety. Nearby, Mrs. Fairchild watches with unmistakable approval. So does your mother. In the Victorian matchmaking world, mothers are the generals of the campaign. They read faces, gestures, and the subtle language of mood with military precision. Tonight, your mother seems quietly triumphant. But your moment with Thomas cannot last. Guests circulate, rules demand it. When he finally steps away, you feel a curious mixture of disappointment and anticipation, a feeling shared by countless young women navigating the rigid pathways of Victorian courtship. At precisely 11 o'clock, as etiquette requires, the first guests begin to take their leave. This signals the acceptable time for the rest to depart. Cloaks and gloves are retrieved. Gentle farewells are exchanged. Every motion is choreographed, as predictable as steps in a waltz. Your family gathers near the door. Thomas approaches one final time, bowing as always. "Good evening, Miss Wilson," he says, "until we meet again." "Good evening, Mr. Fairchild," you reply, masking the flutter in your chest behind perfect composure. He steps back, but not before his gaze lingers on you, just a moment longer than propriety allows. And then you are in your carriage, moving through the darkened streets of London. Gas lamps blur softly against the fogged glass. The night is quiet except for the rhythmic clatter of wheels on cobblestones. Your father sits tall, hands folded over his cane. "A successful evening," he says. Your mother nods. "Quite successful." They say no more, but they don't need to. You know exactly what they mean. Back at home, Mary helps you undress. The house is silent except for the crackling of diminishing embers. She unpins your hair, letting it fall in soft waves down your back. Each pin removed, each gown unfastened, brings you back to yourself. "Did you enjoy the dinner, miss?" Mary asks, watching you through the mirror. "It was pleasant," you say with practiced restraint. But when Mary turns away to fold your gown, your reflection betrays you. There is something in your eyes, a quiet glow, a soft certainty, that even layers of Victorian modesty cannot hide. Tonight was the beginning of something, a shift, a possibility, a promise unspoken but felt. As you lie in bed, blankets pulled up to your chin, the memory of the evening replays in gentle loops. The music, the conversation, the stolen glances, the measured dance of etiquette and emotion, and somewhere in the night, behind the polished facade he always wears, Thomas Fairchild is likely thinking of you too. Tomorrow will bring new rules, new expectations, and new steps in this delicate Victorian dance. But for now, you close your eyes and drift toward sleep, your last thought lingering on a pair of kind eyes and a smile carefully hidden behind propriety. Part 8. Morning calls, whispered gossip, and the social tide turning in your favor. Morning comes softly, with pale winter sunlight flickering weakly through your curtains. Mary draws them back with a whisper of heavy fabric, setting a tray of hot chocolate beside your bed. Even in these hushed early hours, Victorian propriety lingers like a second skin, each moment framed by expectation, each movement shaped by centuries of social design. Today feels different. Perhaps it is the memory of last night's glances. Perhaps it is the quiet certainty that something has shifted. Or perhaps it is simply that London seems warmer when hope stirs beneath the surface. You dress for the morning, modestly, neatly, precisely. A day dress in soft grey-blue wool, buttoned high at the collar. Gloves, bonnet, the small rituals of propriety. Your mother offers a rare smile as you join her in the drawing room. "We'll have morning callers today," she says, arranging her sewing basket beside her. "Best to be prepared." Prepared. In Victorian society, that one word carries weight. Morning calls, despite the name, are afternoon events. They are windows of opportunity, invitations to connection, quiet stages where futures are quietly shaped. Around 10:15, the first bell rings. Mary appears, curtsying lightly. "Mr. Thomas Fairchild is here, madam. He asks if you and Miss Wilson are receiving visitors." Your heart trips in your chest, but you remain composed. Your mother does not look at you, but the slightest upward curve of her lips betrays her satisfaction. "Of course," she says. "Please show him to the drawing room." Instinctively, you smooth your dress, adjust your posture, and place a book elegantly in your hands. When the door opens, Thomas steps inside, his morning coat perfectly pressed, his gloves removed only once seated, as etiquette dictates. He bows. "Miss Wilson, Mrs. Wilson, I trust this morning finds you both well." He looks at you, not directly, not boldly, but with unmistakable warmth, a warmth tempered by the rigid framework surrounding him. A warmth that must hide beneath layers of propriety. You exchange pleasantries, discuss last night's dinner, speak gently of music, society, and the weather. All the while, the clock ticks its steady rhythm. 15 minutes exactly, the unspoken rule for morning calls. And then, just as proper etiquette requires, Thomas stands. "Thank you for receiving me," he says, bowing once more. "I shall convey my regards to my mother." He leaves as politely as he arrived. But something remains in the air, lingering, hopeful, intentional. Your mother waits until the door closes behind him before speaking. "Well," she says lightly, "it appears the Fairchilds are quite interested indeed." Before you can respond, another visitor arrives. This time, Charlotte Hartley and her mother. Charlotte glows with the joy of her engagement, her cheeks rosy, her smile bright, her posture relaxed in a way only the securely betrothed can manage. But her mother's expression carries a different energy, a mix of excitement and the sharp relish of fresh scandal. "Have you heard?" Mrs. Hartley begins, lowering her voice dramatically. "About Mrs. Pembroke?" Your mother raises an eyebrow politely. You fold your hands over your lap, prepared for the slow drip of Victorian gossip, half-whispered truths masked as innocent concern. "She was seen riding in the park," Mrs. Hartley continues, "with Mr. Foster, alone." The word lands heavily. Alone. In Victorian London, being alone with a man not your husband or fiancé could topple a woman's reputation in a single afternoon. Mrs. Pembroke is married. Mr. Foster is a notorious flirt. Your mother clears her throat, ever cautious. "Perhaps a footman was present?" "No," says Mrs. Hartley triumphantly. "Not a soul." Charlotte looks uncomfortable, but Victorian custom requires her to listen without objection. The room's atmosphere tightens, shaped by the immense weight placed upon women's propriety. You cannot help but feel the silent injustice. Mr. Foster will suffer little. Mrs. Pembroke, however, may soon find herself unwelcome in London's drawing rooms. The conversation shifts, thankfully, to safer ground. Charlotte's upcoming wedding, her trousseau, her invitations, the lace for her veil. Layers upon layers of ceremony, stitched together to create the appearance of perfect order. But underneath, human longing, human mistakes, human fears. Victorian society hides it all beneath silk and etiquette. When the Hartleys depart, your mother sighs. "Poor Mrs. Pembroke," she murmurs. "Will she be ruined?" you ask, careful with your tone. Your mother hesitates. "Ruined is a strong word, but reputations are fragile, Jane, especially for women. A truth every Victorian girl grows up knowing. Men face disapproval. Women face destruction." The next hour passes quietly. Needlework, posture, composure. Then another commitment awaits you, a charity committee meeting at the vicarage. Victorian women of your class are expected to serve society, though always in the feminine sphere. Charity, domestic management, moral support. You walk with two other ladies after the meeting, Emma Parker and Sarah Hargreaves. Emma's smile is too sweet, her voice too light. "Did you hear," Emma begins, "that Thomas Fairchild returned from Oxford? And that there will be a musical evening next week?" "Yes," you reply calmly. "We received an invitation." Emma's eyes flicker with something sharp. "How lovely," she says. "I'm sure you'll perform beautifully." You sense the mark of competition, the subtle jostling beneath polite smiles. Emma has always taken interest in Thomas. And society often turns young women into rivals long before they understand what they're competing for. Yet when you arrive home, your brother James brings surprising news. "I saw Fairchild at the club," he announces casually over dinner. "Asked me all sorts of questions about you, Jane." You nearly drop your fork. Your mother glances at you, barely concealing her satisfaction. Questions about your interests, your books, your hobbies, whether you enjoy riding, the Victorian equivalent of romantic curiosity. That night, as Mary brushes out your hair, she hums softly. "It seems someone has taken a liking to you, miss." You offer no confirmation, no denial, but Mary smiles anyway. Servants always know first. As you lie in bed, the house settling quietly around you, your thoughts drift toward one truth. The tide of society is turning, and you are at the center of its gentle, unstoppable pull. Tomorrow may bring more calls, more rules, more whispers, more opportunities. But one thing is certain. Thomas Fairchild has stepped toward you, and in Victorian London, a single step, properly made, means everything. Part 9. Shadows in Society. Dangers, warnings, and the courtship grows deeper. The next morning dawns with a kind of fragile brightness, a thin wash of pale sunlight spread across the city like diluted gold. London rarely offers clear skies in winter, but today seems determined to dress itself in optimism. A welcome omen, perhaps, though Victorians would never admit to believing in signs. By the time Mary finishes fastening the last button of your walking dress, a deep burgundy wool trimmed neatly at the sleeves, the bell rings downstairs. Your mother appears in the doorway. "Thomas is arriving to escort us to the Royal Academy," she says. "Best not to keep him waiting." Thomas. The name alone sends a small whisper of warmth through your chest, one you immediately smooth away under the practiced mask of composure. The three of you enter the drawing room. Thomas rises as you enter, bowing politely. "Mrs. Wilson, Miss Wilson, I trust I find you well today." Your mother answers first with poised cordiality. You follow, offering the correct greeting, neither too warm nor too reserved. But Thomas's eyes linger on you a moment longer than etiquette allows. Just a moment. Just enough. Soon you are settled in the Fairchild's elegant carriage, the family crest glinting on the door. The horses move at a measured pace through London's bustling streets. Inside, conversation flows smoothly, polite, appropriate, but colored with a subtle undertone of genuine interest. "That color suits you very well, Miss Wilson," Thomas says quietly. You lower your eyes, grateful both for the compliment and for his thoughtfulness in directing part of it toward your mother to maintain propriety. The Royal Academy awaits, a haven of art, society, and intricate social dance. Inside the exhibition hall, the space hums with the rustle of silk, the murmur of cultivated voices, and the faint scent of oil paint mingling with winter air. Portraits, landscapes, and historical scenes adorn the walls in grand gilded frames. You move among them with Thomas on one side and your mother on the other. Every so often, he offers a brief commentary on a painting, balanced between intelligence and modesty. Victorians distrust overt enthusiasm. A gentleman must never appear too eager. But then, "Miss Parker," a voice calls. Emma Parker glides toward you, her smile bright but brittle. She positions herself near Thomas with casual perfection, commenting loudly upon a painting nearby. "The light reminds me of the view from my aunt's estate in the Lake District," she says sweetly. "You must visit sometime, Mr. Fairchild." She is fishing, casting out bait, hoping for a reaction. Thomas offers a courteous smile, but nothing more. "I'm afraid I'm tied to business in London," he replies. Then, with a graceful pivot, "Miss Wilson and I were discussing the portrait just here." He gently steers the conversation and you away from Emma. A small victory, polite but unmistakable. The exhibition continues. You meet acquaintances, exchange greetings, accept pleasantries, yet you cannot shake the feeling of being watched. And then you see him, a man across the gallery, middle-aged, well-dressed, eyes sharp and unsettling. He observes your group with an intensity that makes your heart tighten. Thomas notices your discomfort. "Is everything all right, Miss Wilson?" You speak softly. "That gentleman, he seems to be watching us." Thomas glances discreetly. His expression darkens. "Ah," he murmurs. "Lord Barrington." Your mother stiffens beside you. "I didn't realize he had returned to London," she whispers. You glance between them. "You know him." Your mother hesitates. "Lord Barrington carries a certain reputation toward young ladies. Victorians speak of danger with delicate phrasing, but the meaning is always clear. Barrington is not merely impolite. He is a predator cloaked in respectability. Before you can move away, he approaches. "Fairchild," he says, bowing lightly. "Mrs. Wilson, and this must be the charming Miss Wilson I've heard so much about." His gaze lingers far too long, too boldly, too confidently. "Lord Barrington," Thomas says politely, but with ice beneath the surface. "We were just leaving." "A shame," Barrington replies with a thin smile. "I do enjoy meeting London's most promising young ladies." Your mother interjects, her tone razor-sharp under layers of courtesy. "We have prior appointments, I'm afraid." It is a dismissal, one of the few weapons women possess. Barrington bows again, retreating only when propriety forces him to. As soon as he is out of earshot, Thomas's voice drops. "I apologize for that encounter. Had I known he would be present, I would have suggested a different outing." Your mother nods gravely. "You handled it well, Mr. Fairchild." "Thank you." For the rest of the exhibition, Thomas stays close, subtly positioning himself between you and any potential danger. It is protective, not possessive, and you feel a calm certainty in his presence. After leaving the Royal Academy, the carriage carries you safely home. Before departing, Thomas bows. "Mrs. Wilson, Miss Wilson, if it suits your household, I should like to call tomorrow afternoon. There is a matter I wish to discuss with Mr. Wilson." Your breath falters. Your mother answers first, smoothly, formally. "Mr. Wilson will be at home." Thomas meets your eyes, and in that moment, the truth settles around you like warm silk. He is coming to ask for permission. The next step in Victorian courtship, the one before an official proposal. As he turns to leave, he bows once more. "Until tomorrow, Miss Wilson." "Until tomorrow, Mr. Fairchild," you reply, voice steady though your pulse is anything but. That evening at dinner, your brother confirms it. "Fairchild asked about you at the club," James says. "Wants to know if you ride, what books you read. Serious questions." Your mother exchanges a knowing glance with your father. It is happening, properly, respectfully, inevitably. Later, as Mary brushes out your hair, she smiles gently. "Will he be calling again soon, miss?" "Yes," you whisper. "Tomorrow." "Oh," she says softly. "Then I shall tell cook to prepare something special." Everyone seems to know before you speak the words aloud. And as you lie awake that night, staring at the dim flicker of the lamps through your curtains, one truth settles in your heart. Tomorrow, everything changes. Part 10. The question that changes everything. Permission, proposal, and the shift into a new life. Morning arrives with a quiet urgency, a sense of significance woven into every breath, every rustle of fabric, every sound echoing through the halls of your home. Today, Thomas Fairchild will speak to your father. Your fate, in many ways, will be decided by the end of the afternoon. Victorian society prides itself on order, propriety, and a structured path to matrimony. And today marks the most defining step of all. The gentleman's formal request to court a lady with the intention of marriage. You dress with care, choosing a soft blue morning dress. Simple, elegant, and modest. The very shade Thomas once mentioned he admired. Mary's hands tremble slightly as she assists you. "You look lovely, miss," she whispers. You give her a small smile. "Thank you, Mary." Her eyes shine with hope. For you, for the household, for the story unfolding before her. As the clock ticks toward the appointed hour, tension gathers quietly inside the house. Even the servants seem to move with hushed awareness. Victorian propriety doesn't allow displays of excitement, but the atmosphere buzzes with it nonetheless. At 3:05, your father retreats to his study, wearing a crisp waistcoat and a fresh flower in his buttonhole. He looks formal, serious, and distinctly aware of the importance of this meeting. Your mother enters the drawing room with you, carrying her embroidery but barely touching it. Her eyes flick to the clock again and again. You attempt to steady your breathing, but your needlework is a tangle of uneven stitches. Victorian ladies are trained to maintain composure, trained to hide their hearts behind propriety. But today, composure feels like a thin veil stretched over a racing pulse. Then, the bell rings. Your mother sits a little straighter. Footsteps, voices in the hall, the distant murmur of polite greetings. The door to the study opens and closes. Thomas has arrived, and now you must wait. Victorian etiquette demands it. A young lady must never eavesdrop. She must never pace. She must sit, demure and composed, pretending her future is not being discussed mere steps away. Minutes pass. 5, 10, 15. Each second stretches like a drawn breath. Your mother pretends to read. You pretend to stitch. Neither of you manages to fool the other. Finally, after what feels like an eternity, you hear footsteps. Your father enters the drawing room first, expression unreadable. Thomas follows behind him, and for the first time since you've known him, you see genuine nervousness flicker across his face. Your heart lifts and twists at the same time. "My dear," your father says to your mother, "Mr. Fairchild has something he wishes to discuss with Jane. Perhaps we might give them a few moments." This is astonishing. Victorian couples are almost never left alone. Even engaged couples are chaperoned. For your father to offer a few minutes of semi-private conversation means only one thing. Permission has been granted. Your mother rises, pausing to give Thomas a firm, unmistakable look, the kind that conveys both approval and a mother's silent warning. Behave honorably, or answer to me. When they leave the room, the door remains slightly ajar, never fully closed. Even now, the rules must be respected. You stand, hands clasped tightly. Thomas approaches slowly, stopping at a respectful distance, but his eyes reveal what he cannot yet say. "Miss Wilson," he begins, then shakes his head gently. "Jane," your breath catches. Your given name, spoken only by family and the closest of friends. For him to use it now is far more intimate than any touch would be. "I've spoken with your father," he says, his voice steadying. "He has granted me permission to address you formally." He hesitates, searching for the right words. "From the first, I admired your grace, your poise, your kindness. His voice softens. These weeks have only deepened that admiration. You swallow, unable to speak yet. He gathers his courage, not the reserved gentleman, but a man revealing his heart beneath layers of discipline. What I mean to say is a breath, a pause, a flicker of vulnerability. Jane, I hold you in the highest esteem and affection. Would you do me the very great honor of accepting my hand in marriage? The world seems to still around you. The afternoon light pools softly through the window. Your heartbeat pulses in your ears. Everything narrows to this moment, this man, this future. Victorian etiquette insists that a lady should appear surprised, should hesitate, should blush delicately before answering. But in this moment, your reaction isn't a performance. Thomas, you whisper, nothing would make me happier. His shoulders relax, the tension slipping away in an instant. His expression transforms into quiet joy, a joy so genuine you feel warmth bloom under your ribs. He reaches into his waistcoat and draws out a velvet box. I brought something for you. Inside lies a sapphire ring encircled by diamonds, elegant, timeless, and significant. His grandmother's ring. He steps forward. May I? You nod. He takes your hand, warm, steady, and slips the ring onto your finger. The touch sends a ripple of feeling through you, as intimate as a kiss in this heavily restrained world. In Victorian society, this moment is as close to physical closeness as you are allowed before marriage. A palm against a palm, a promise sealed without words. Your parents re-enter, smiling with genuine warmth. It seems congratulations are in order, your father announces. The butler is summoned. Champagne is poured. Your engagement becomes official, and the world seems to shift beneath your feet. You are no longer simply Miss Jane Wilson. You are the future Mrs. Thomas Fairchild. The conversations that follow revolve around dates, settlements, arrangements, plans for a wedding 3 months hence, long enough to prepare, short enough to avoid gossip. Thomas remains close by your side, offering you soft words whenever propriety allows. When he finally departs, he bows over your hand, but this time, he allows his fingers to linger against yours. Until tomorrow, Jane, he whispers. Until tomorrow, Thomas, you reply. The door closes behind him, and for the first time, your future feels real. Not a dream, not a distant expectation, but something unfolding, step by careful step in front of you. Tonight, when you lie in bed, surrounded by calm darkness, you slip your hand beneath the blankets and feel the weight of the sapphire on your finger, the symbol of what awaits, the promise of a life about to begin. Conclusion. The gentle fade of a story and the quiet echoes of a world long gone. As the final pages of this long Victorian reverie close, we step back from the parlor lamps, the rustle of silk skirts, the clink of teacups, and the delicate choreography of a society built on rules more intricate than lace. The journey you've taken, from waking in a cold London bedroom to navigating dinner parties, morning calls, whispered gossip, chaperoned outings, and a carefully orchestrated courtship, has led you to the threshold of a new life. You began as Miss Jane Wilson, a young woman shaped by rigid expectations. You end this tale as Mrs. Thomas Fairchild, stepping into marriage with hope, respect, and a tenderness budding softly beneath layers of etiquette. Victorian society often appears stifling to modern eyes, full of hidden meanings, silent pressures, and unyielding codes that dictated every movement and moment. But within these constraints lived people who felt deeply, dreamed quietly, and carved out connections in the small spaces permitted to them. Every stolen glance, every gentle compliment, every restrained gesture meant something. Every tiny spark mattered. And perhaps that is what continues to enchant us about this era, the way emotion found its way through even the smallest cracks in propriety. In the calm countryside of Kent, where Jane and Thomas begin their married life, the world softens. The city's fog recedes. The rules no longer press so tightly. There is room, finally, for tenderness to unfold. Not in grand gestures, but in daily partnership, in shared conversation, in mutual respect, in the simple warmth of walking side by side without needing to hide one's feelings. Victorian marriage, like Victorian life, was a negotiation between duty and desire, between expectation and individuality, between tradition and the quiet hope for something more. For most couples, love came later if it came at all. But for Jane and Thomas, that love has already begun to take shape. And that is where we leave them. On the steps of their new home. At the beginning of their own story, one no etiquette book could fully script. As the lamps dim and the narrative settles into stillness, another truth emerges. Even in a world of rigid rules, the human heart finds its way. It always has. It always will. Now close your eyes. Let the echo of carriage wheels fade into memory. Let the soft rustle of silk recede. And let the quiet comfort of this bygone world lull you gently towards sleep. Your journey through Victorian society ends here, but its whispers remain. Soft, distant, and warm, like the last glow of a gas lamp at the end of a London street.